Okay, Zaza is back now. So, okay, the recording has begun. So for tonight, here we begin for our discussion for our subject marine ecology on mangrove ecosystem. So the first question will be asked by our beloved friend here, Iman Shakir. So Iman Shakir, you may proceed.
So so the first question for this discussion about the
Teruk lah you jawab.
function. Ada.
Macam formal sangat lah.
Itulah tu. Masa santai-santai je. Cakap macam ni je.
Cakap dengan kawan-kawan.
Iman. Start on.
Cakap dah tadi kenapa potong? Dah nak habiskan soalan tu dah. Tiba-tiba potong cakap tak pandai. So our first question is about the function and important about the ecosystem. So what's about your answer?
What's about your answer?
Opinion.
Opinion.
So, my first opinion about the importance of mangrove ecosystem is that firstly, as we all know, mangrove ecosystem protect the shorelines from erosion.
How?
So, how they protect the shoreline from erosion? Because as you know, their roots is like growing above the ground level. So with this type of roots, they actually absorb the impact of the wave and decrease the energy of the wave from reaching towards inland. Thus, the wave energy become lower and lower. So the shoreline will be protected from heavy impact from the wave, and that's how they protected the shoreline. That is my opinion.
So what about the others?
Okay, so for mine, I think that's why more than services. I think we should state that mangrove have two different function, which mean we can classify it into mangrove goods or mangrove services. For mangrove good, maybe we can say for mangrove is important for timber and also charcoal production, and also please provide for fisheries, is important for fisheries. And for the mangrove services, I think other than coastal protection, we can add on the info that mangrove is importance of for carbon sequester. So where it balance the carbon concentration in atmosphere by absorbing it through mechanism like photosynthesis and others.
Yes, absolutely. So I would like to add on
Anything?
on the services that Najwa said. So the services are also divided. One of them is regulating services, which is the benefits obtained from the modulation of ecosystem services. For example, the service lessen impact of man-made activity. For example, is mangrove. They take up sediments, mineral, contaminants, nutrient carried by river inflow. This will acts as a biofilter and will filter out pollutants in the mangrove system.
May I add something? So
Sure.
Sure.
for me, you guys just said about the importance of mangrove ecosystems towards the like fisheries and to humans. So for me, there are also benefits the migrating birds. So because of mangrove ecosystem having a good coverage of plants like such as mangrove, so they become the transit area for migrating birds. Yeah.
So basically, the mangrove is the base of the food chain.
Yes.
Okay.
So since we're talking about animals, like I've read somewhere that the extensive mangrove roots, they can also become home or habitat to a lot of marine plants, algae, invertebrates, and all sorts of animals. So if the ecosystem forms a community for a variety of species which can also occur in high densities. So yeah, my point is basically just the productive habitats and support a lot of animals living there.
True.
Forest can add something. Do you have
Sure.
anything to say?
Sure.
Sure,
Yes, yes.
Najwa.
Of course. I would like to add on what Alif
Oh,
said
Faris.
before.
Potong.
So actually, the mangrove fauna can be divided into two. First is resident, and the second one is the non-resident. So for the resident animals, they live entirely within the mangrove area, and the non-resident or visiting fauna, like as Alif said before, like the migrating birds, they just come for food and shelter for certain times only. Uh, I think that's what I want to say.
So for the
I would
Okay,
like to add some more to the crowd. So first, I would like to emphasize on the water quality, whereas mangrove can be a component which can maintain the coastal water quality. That's all.
So I think we have like a very compact answer for question number one, and I think we should proceed to question number two.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, about the question number two, what does the ecosystem change? How do ecosystem change over time? So basically, what about the others' opinion? So you can tell us about your opinion right now.
How about you,
Alif,
Jackie?
yes,
You
I
go
go.
first.
Alif, can you like change the slide?
Oh, sorry.
So what makan is it?
Since just now you like on question number one you haven't said anything that much,
Okay.
so we would like to give this opportunity to you.
So basically, for me, I think the occurrence of global warming may promote the expansion of mangrove forests to higher latitude and accelerate the sea level rise. So basically, the change in sea level rise will alter the flooding pattern and the structure of the mangrove ecosystem. So that's all for me. And what about the others' opinion?
Or maybe we can say about the current distribution of the mangrove ecosystem. So what I have searched before is that there are basically two hemispheres of biodiversity, which is in the Indo-West Pacific and the Atlantic Eastern Pacific, which mangrove can be found in the tropical and subtropical regions, between 30 north and 30 south latitude of the equator. So which has the normal temperature of around 24 degrees Celsius, and the largest percentage of mangrove can be found in between 5 degree north and 5 degrees south latitude, from the equator. So from the equator, we can see that at the Indo-West Pacific, we have around 40 true mangrove species, and which is 5 times the number of species that we have at the Atlantic Eastern Pacific. So that is the current distribution of the mangrove ecosystem. So how about you guys? What about you guys think about that?
I think that the mangrove area is currently under threat over time because there has been some destruction of mangrove area in this modern time. So the destruction, I would say it can be divided into reversible destruction and also non-reversible destruction. So for the reversible destruction, the mangrove area that has been destructed can be restored. For example, for the commercial fish pond and prawn farm. So they can be restored over the period to the original condition. So for non-reversible destruction, it cannot be reversible, which means like the coastal development or urban development in the mangrove area.
Maybe one can add something.
I was just wondering if what we call it, invasive species like fish, right? So if it is added into the ecosystem, will it change the ecosystem? Does anyone have any opinion on this? Because to me, it will change the ecosystem. But then, the effect of the changes still unclear to me. So I want to ask about the opinion of fellow members. So how do you think?
Well, that's new for me. Are you speaking about the fauna or flora ecosystem?
Fauna.
Fauna. So the animals, right?
Faris, we can hear you.
Gila soalan Wang.
So for me, in my opinion, mostly the fauna found there, they looking for a shelter or habitat and for their juvenile to grow. So to strongly saying that this fauna can cause invasive, like they are having invasive species and causing damage to the mangrove ecosystem is like maybe we need to do a more thoroughly research on this matter because as I said earlier, in my opinion, mostly animal use this mangrove habitat to to for necessary ground and like barely do any damage to them.
I agree with that. So back to our questions. Yes, I think yes, the mangrove ecosystem will change over time, but the changes is not limited to sea level rise, to the uh, atmospheric carbon dioxide, to the level of atmospheric carbon dioxide or a raise in surface temperature of water, but it can be a variety of mechanism. It can be like Wong said about the invasive species. There might be invasive species later on over the time as the time goes because mangrove is in a great trade nowadays. Yeah, I think we can move to we can conclude.
Wait. I would like to share a data on this because I found a research on it that shows
Sure.
a massive like change loss of mangrove.
Mangrove
Can I
habitat.
Do you want to present it?
Sure, if I leave unpresent his. Alright.
Okay.
I'll share it. You see my screen right now?
Yes.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll make it bigger for you guys. So on this figure, let's focus on B, degradation and anthropogenic drivers that of changes, including evidence of prior disturbance. So these red dots is actually the mangrove loss from 1996 to 2010. And the gray spots are the total distribution of mangrove types. So it is actually quite a lot that is affected affected, that is lost due to like some factors that we will be discussing later. So this is the data. Yeah.
True. So from what I know, that Malaysia also faced a great loss of mangrove cover in the past between 1975 to 2000. I heard that we have lost from 700,000 to 572,000 hectares of mangrove ecosystem, mangrove areas. So it is said that it is because of increased urbanization, land acquisition for agriculture and aquaculture, and also physical infrastructure developments which have been responsible for the mangrove loss in several states. So this why I want to ask about what could be cause of the changes. So this is actually the third question of this. Okay. So anyone have any opinions?
Uh, so for in my opinion, the first thing that comes to my mind when opposed with this question is water pollution for factors, right? So such as oil spills, water pollution such as oil spills that can cause damage to mangrove by coating the roots and limiting the transport of oxygen to the underground roots. And then the mangrove communities, including invertebrates, fishes, and plants, will be highly susceptible to damage from the petroleum product. So basically, it will the mangrove society, the mangrove community will have a big blowback to the growth, the survivability of the species. So that's in my opinion lah, mainly on water pollution.
So how about
So
climate
how
change?
about the others?
Maybe L can give something.
Alice,
Sorry. Macam stuck tadi.
tak apa.
Bagus kilo.
Okay.
Kita kat mana?
Soalan nombor
Stop. Sorry.
Maybe you could give your opinion about question number 3, which is
What
what are the
cause the changes?
Yeah, I actually don't quite understand question number 3 because you say about long term, about changes over time, and so does it mean like long term time?
I think it can be both, like
It can be both.
short term and.
I think it can be both.
But for the long term, for the most common one is climate change lah.
Yeah.
We can see it nowadays, right? So climate change, like it gives direct impact to the mangrove.
One of the reasons why the sea level rises.
Yes. So that the main causes, I think.
Yes. I would like to add a point. Maybe during the global warming, the temperature of the surface, world surface, is changed, and some places they are not suitable for mangrove communities are now suitable, and some places that are suitable for mangrove species are now not suitable. Do you get my point?
Yeah.
Basically, I summed up your point, which
So
means that as the climate change increases, does the sea level increase and the temperature also increase? As we
yeah,
know that the mangrove population, they are highly sensitive toward any changes of the sea. So which
yes, yes,
means that we also know that mangrove ecosystem, they live in a subtropical and tropical environment. So that means if the water goes any warmer or any colder, they will not able to adapt that fast, and thus the species will face a threat to extinction.
yes,
And that
agree.
what changes the mangrove ecosystem.
I did read somewhere yang
L.
the environment.
Okay, good.
Apa?
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
lagging.
Tak dengar L.
Continue.
Sorry. Apa tadi cakap? I lupa dah. Oh, I did read somewhere that um that mangrove they have like considerable, not considerable, like they have resilience lah towards the changes or fluctuations in the environment around them. Because there's a paper that I read that they said that they have they can, I think they can modify the environment. I think I cannot quite remember. I didn't jot down. But
Yeah, I
something
think
like
that's true. Sebab mangrove is as a filtration, right?
and then like they can migrate inland. They can migrate inland whenever the sea level rise. So I think that's what they mean when they say they can
Resilient towards.
are resilient towards sea level rise. Dia boleh migrate. Okay, kerja. Faham tak? Sorry. Sama
Oh,
sikit
we
tak
understand you well. We got you.
We get your point.
Yeah.
Iman, for the
So
question number 4.
basically for the question number 4, it's about the anthropogenic and natural stress toward the mangrove ecosystem. So for me, I think I can list that I can list the factor about the anthropogenic activity. It's about I think it will be the coastal development. I think because the coastal development might be unsustainable toward the mangrove ecosystem. And next, it can be the water pollution, and it's about the mangrove ecosystem can tolerate the pollution that we had in the land, and they can filter it in the meantime. So, what about the others? Do you want to add something in the list of the anthropogenic and natural stress toward the mangrove ecosystem?
Does this mean that the anthropogenic are basically human activity that causing the
Yes.
distress?
Yes.
Yes.
Human activity. We are the biggest threat so far.
So basically, for the stresses that either anthropogenic or natural stresses, they actually divided into two parts. So first is non-reversible stresses and also reversible stresses.
Yes.
So most of the stresses that anthropogenic stresses give is the non-reversible one. So when, for example, it's like unplanned urban development at the coastal area, which they cut down all the mangrove areas, and they develop buildings. So in that way, they are actually clearing the land, and so there's no way for reversing the impact of clearing the land to create back the mangrove ecosystem.
Yep. Entirely true.
I agree with you.
Some
It's a very good point.
Yeah.
Zaza.
Zaza.
Just like what Alip said is that cut down trees contribute to like loss of mangrove, right? So on the article that I read, it shows that logging contributes like 0.9%. That is the Southeast Asia contribute the most and the only contributor to this factor. I would say that the changes occurred is mostly caused by aquaculture conversion. The mangrove is converted into an aquaculture spot because it is said here that 11.2% of the loss of mangrove, this aquaculture contribute to 11% or 11.2% of the mangrove loss.
So when we're talking about aquaculture, we know that when we have aquaculture farming at the water source, we know that they will
Like
also have
shrimp.
Yes.
Fishes.
They will also will have like excess nutrients from the aquaculture. So what do you guys think about that?
Yes, I
Faris?
think the main contributors that I read about the threats to mangrove ecosystem is that shrimp aquaculture industry. This is because the shrimp aquaculture industry use a lot supply of fresh water and the salt water. This means that they mix the water to make the prawns stay healthy. So this water mixing cause the tree to lose their fresh water supply. Because we need to understand that the mangrove they can withstand the salt water, but they live mainly by the fresh water. So the freshwater supply is really important for the mangrove. So other than that, the chemical and antibiotics used in the aquaculture industry also alter the chemical condition that may prevent the growth of mangrove tree in the area. I
True.
think that's how aquaculture give threat to the mangrove ecosystem.
I think one more thing is about our low level of understanding about the importance of mangrove. So it makes like initiative of monitoring and management of this area became very poor and ineffective in a way that some people may look mangrove areas as like wastage area where they dump trash into the ecosystem because they don't see the luxurious value of mangrove ecosystem. So that is one thing we should see. So maybe we can go on with the next question.
Okay, for the last question is about the
Wait.
how does
We
Oh,
haven't actually talked about natural stresses.
natural
about
stresses.
natural stresses. Oh yeah, true. So
Yes.
anyone
No.
wants to add up about natural
I
stresses?
got one.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
I got okay, I got it. I read about tropical cyclones being one of the natural stresses for mangroves. So as we can all know that cyclones can have a very fast and high sustained winds. So these winds can cyclones, their center can reach very high speed, which basically ranges from a typical tropical depression to hurricane. Hurricane kan memang gila punya kan. So what this does is that it creates very strong wind speeds. So these strong winds, they can actually take down some of the mangroves. So they can also cause extreme like flexing of the stems, and then they can also cause separation of bark from dia punya apa? Dia punya apa stem
And
apa?
root shoots.
That lah. And then also when we talk about cyclones, we talk about storm too. So with storm, there is a large amount of sand and other materials that can be deposited uh, towards the mangrove. So the accumulation of this deposition or sedimentation, it can disrupt or impair the gaseous exchange of the mangrove tree because the sedimentation, it tends to smother the like pneumatophores or the lenticles. So this can cause apa? A lot of mortality to the mangrove trees. You guys get what I'm saying?
Okay, so
Yeah, we got your point.
what do you guys think about which is the biggest major threat to mangrove ecosystem? Is it anthropogenic or like the natural stresses?
I think
I think it will be anthropogenic.
Anthropogenic.
major would be there
Yeah.
lah.
Okay.
Major will
We
be
keep
anthropogenic.
anthropogenic
Because
because it
It will repeat the changes.
will
Rapid
create
changes.
the natural stress.
it also
So
leads to
so
long-term
basically
effects.
start with
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
It happens
Long
to
term effect.
okay, then.
Like climate change.
What about erosion? Is it one of the natural stressor?
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Erosion. Just like because of development, when we cut down more mangrove areas, so the wave action will be like more effective towards the coastal
Right.
area. So eroding the coastal areas will be increased, and when the sedimentation is increased, it will, like Elisa said, it will cover the fermental force of mangrove roots, and the plants
Breathing pathways.
the plants will suffocate and eventually die.
The closer example that we can see from our study places in Terengganu near the airport location, we know that they developed the coastal over there for the airport, and thus
Yes.
by doing that, they are destroying the natural mangrove habitat. We know that, and within a few years of the development for the airport, we can see a very catastrophic event like last year, which the ocean having a big wave and then hitting the shoreline very very hard without no protection from the mangrove, because there are no more mangrove over there, and we can see the damage that has been done, that they needed close the road itself, and all those wave breaker rocks are dispersed into the public roads, and this is giving a major threat toward the residential area by the beachside.
Yep, I
So
agree.
I want to add, maybe because of that, Yazid, I think mangrove is very essential because I think the wave speed from the main ocean will strike directly to the land and
Yeah.
cause the bad effect to the land.
True. So basically, mangrove ecosystem is the first line defense of our coastal areas.
Basically.
Yes, I agree.
Sorry, proceed.
So
Wong?
we would like to proceed to the next or anybody want to add few points? Proceed.
Let's proceed to the next question. If anyone doesn't have any more points.
For the next and the last,
Yeah, I think we can proceed to the next question.
the next and last question is about I would like to discuss about the successional stages for the stress caused by the direct and indirect natural phenomena and anthropogenic activity.
I think I can start. Okay, so uh cepat lah, siapa ni? Water.
Go on.
Proceed.
Masih masih.
So, okay, so for I will give example for sewage runoff from the factory, such as as we know that sewage runoff might contain heavy metal like mercury. So mercury is a of pollutant for metallic element, right? Which it can lead to the mercury poisoning. So dissolved mercury has a strong affinity towards organic matter and also suspended sediment. It might not give direct effect to the mangrove, but it will give direct impact to the organism there. So why? Because the mercury it accumulate in the sediment, so it causes the mercury to undergo methylation to produce the methyl mercury, which is a very poisonous form of mercury. Then the methyl mercury can cause damage to the central nervous system, and it can affect to the unborn babies and infants. why the mercury can transfer us is like because the fish might mistaken the mercury as food sources for them. So when they makan, they consume it, so it will accumulate in their bodies, and then lastly the consumer, the last consumer is us. So that's why the mercury is transferred back into our body system. And um for long exposure, it might lead to the heart disease, Alzheimer, Parkinson, and also one of known disease as Minamata, if I'm not mistaken. That one of the successional stages for sewage runoff. Anyone can have any idea?
In my opinion, for example, for the stress of natural causes such as seawater increase and the sea temperature increase, the sea temperature increase, which mean that the concentration of the salinity also changes. So some mangrove towards the shoreline have better adaptability towards higher concentration of salt, while inland mangrove sometimes they doesn't even have the salt gland to excrete the excess amount of salt. So this means that if this phenomena occur in a rapid changes, these inland mangrove will not be able to adapt to these changes. And so this type of adaptation is really crucial to the mangrove ecosystem for them to survive. That's my opinion to the succession, what we call that, the succession stages for each stress.
Just to clarify, succession stages is like the process of one stress leading to another stress, right?
I thought that the successional stages is how the mangrove ecosystem recovered after the stress has happened. So, according what do I have found here, a study on an area in China. So after the stress happened, this is general for any other stress. So after the stress occurrence, the first mangrove to appear in this area is Avicennia marina. So in the early period, the only species that appear is Avicennia marina and form single species communities. And next, gradually after the occurrence of Avicennia marina, the the Aegiferes corniculatum occur in tidal flat, and after that, they build a community with the Avicennia marina and form a mangrove community. So that is the early stages of succession after the stress. As the sediments accumulate time by time, so the habitats becomes more suitable for another species to grow in the area, such as Bruguera gymnorrhiza, Rhizophora stylosa, and other species. These species will replace the previous community and form a mixed mature mangrove forest. So that's what I understand about successional stage, which means that how the mangrove community recover after the stress happened. Do you get my point?
Do you know
So
what?
Yeah,
basically, it's
I
a
agree with you for this. That's also what I understand.
Yes.
Okay, go on, Alif. You are talking before Alif.
How how about like maybe some of you like having a different understanding toward this question, so maybe you can just like voice out.
I mean,
Whatever you
similar
understand
to
from
what
it.
Faris said, that Avicennia is becoming the first species. So why do you think Avicennia became the first species to inhabited the area after the stressors?
Wong, fan,
Is it like
fan noise.
natural selection or what?
What?
Bunyi kipas.
Why is Avicennia became the first species to inhabited the area?
I think that we first need to know that the mangrove have their what we say horizontal distribution. So Avicennia marina is among the tree that can grow closest to the ocean. So that's why I think they appear first before other species can appear.
Mm-hmm. So they can adapt more than other species. Right.
Yeah, I think they are more suitable to salt tolerant to the salinity of the ocean
Mm.
compared to other species.
Understand?
How about others? Do you guys have any other views?
I actually understand the question quite differently because I understand it is like what I said just now is the process of one stress leading to another stress, which is
Okay.
I can
Mm-hmm.
say about aquaculture conversion. Uh, this is a stress that would lead to another stress, which is the introduction and transfer of species or spread of disease. So
You mean
the great
invasive species, right?
yep, that's correct. So the greatest number of introduction of exotic fish and crustacean species outside of their natural range has occurred for aquaculture purposes. So the potential negative effect of such introduction could include the degradation of host environment, disruption of host community, genetic degradation of host stock, and also introduction of disease and parasites.
Mm-hmm. True. It may also lead
So,
to harmful algae bloom, right?
yep.
Mm. So
How about
anyone
others?
else?
Any idea is open. This is why we discuss no wrong, no right. To just openly discuss. It's okay.
I think, yeah, that's true. Maybe we can add some, um, like, for the another stressor from one stressor to another stress. Uh, like for my first point, like for the sewage. Okay, so the first stress is introduction of the chemical runoff into the water column, right? So um, it can lead to other stressor, which it also can lead to the harmful algal bloom. Another stressor because as sewage runoff might contain excess nutrients, so and it can increase the turbidity of water column, so might what you say for the phytoplankton to blooms, so
True. So
so it
for
also can
me,
lead to
uh, in my opinion, about this is from the view of what Faris understand from this question, which is the how mangrove can successfully survive after stresses. So from the basic morphology of a mangrove plant, so some plants can have different types of roots, such as like Avicennia having pneumatophores, and most of mangrove plants also they have like seedlings that are that can buried into the sediment, which they can grow from propagules. So from that I see that how the basic morphology of mangrove plants itself is already um adaptable to all the stresses. So for example, like high sea level, temperature, high sedimentations and stuff. So from the adaptation of what they have from the morphology itself, they can adapt to the situation.
It's a very
So
good point.
can I add
Understand it?
something?
Sure, Iman.
So
Yes.
so basically, I think I will go with Alif and Faris about the succession. What about the question? Succession?
Yeah.
Stages.
Stages. So
Succession
basically,
stage.
I think about the recovery or restoration process to the mangrove. I think it is my opinion. So basically, it will describe to what happened to the mangrove ecology after having a threat. I think so basically the best example is like Faris said about the Avicennia marina, right, Faris?
Yeah.
So basically, I think the best example is about the reborn of the ecosystem. Like when you are born, you learn to see, you learn to walk and then run. So basically, it's just the same to the mangrove ecosystem. It's about how they evolve, how they having their life cycle in the ecosystem.
True.
So I
Yeah.
think that's the opinion.
That's a great example and
Oh,
analogy
how
from
not? How
human.
not? I reading material. So anyone want to add something or
Wait. Do logging apa? Do logging affect any like successional stages? Like, can it recover from logging? Can logging can we basically cut it down?
Oh yeah, that is under the non-reversible stresses. So once logging happen, there's no way that the place can recover unless we plant it. Yeah, that's why
I
there's
Yes.
a
think it is a reversible action because if a corporate company, let's say they are very care so much about the ecosystem, they will do the replanting program after each logging, and they will not lodge mangrove that is there. They will like pick only selected trees that will be cut down, and then after they are cut down, they will clear all the roots and the buttress and everything, and then they replanted the seed. So which means they're doing like they give and take. They take what from the nature and they give back to it the nature by replanting the seed. So I think it's kind of reversible action, or I think it would say like well balanced action, because you take something and then you give it back, and then you care for the places, and then you wait on the right time, and then you start to cut down the trees back, like you are farming the trees exactly.
it's reversible when we have the effort
Yeah,
to plant it. So
yeah.
in from naturally it won't be reversible lah, because once we lock the area, cut down the areas, there will be like no animals can live there, no plants can live there, because maybe we have developed anything there. It's like such as aquaculture
sorry,
farm.
what I think I'm not clear about the reversible destruction.
What are the example?
I think
What
it can be restored by us or
Restored by us.
naturally restore.
Non reversible, from what I understand, is it cannot be restored naturally.
Oh,
For example, like um um free energy and non-free energy. Like sun is like free energy, but fossil fuel is not free energy. Like that.
so
Understand?
it's about the replanting the mangrove. It reversible or not?
So replanting is our effort to regenerate the area.
Yes.
But the action of cutting down trees is actually non-reversible.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Are you guys okay?
Oh, what a discussion today.
What a
Okay, I
discussion
okay.
lah.
I
What a
think I okay.
discussion lah.
I okay. You okay?
You okay?
You
I
okay?
okay. You can
Yang
take.
belakang okay.
Kan?
Kita dah boleh jadi ni lah. Press conference ni. Boleh buat
So
meeting kat
I
OIT.
think for the question number 5 is quite general.
Confusing.
It's quite general, so it can be in any. It can have a different way to understand it.
Yes, I agree.
Different how.
Agree with you, Najwa.
I hope so.
I hope so.
It
Ni
can
berbeza
be-
pendapat ni.
Tak apa. We will confirm it
Jadi
later. We will confirm it later with doctor which one.
Can you
We
confirm
cannot be
Abdullah
correct
Hari?
every time.
Probably.
Selamat.
Yes, I will confirm it later.
Okay.